This is where we hold them. This is where we fight.
You are now listening to Sweep the Rack podcast featuring Brooklyn Rob and Big Mike.
Rob, what's good, homie?
Mets and Jets, Mike, are going to take 10 years off my life on a Sunday. I swear to you.
The Jets are cooked, son. I bet against the Jets today. They were that was an easy pick.
Easy
for me today. I actually need the Steelers to beat the Cowboys straight up to hit that parlay with that bet too.
I don't know about cooked. I mean, this is really the hardest part of their schedule right now. The last half of their schedule is pretty soft. I'll be
Aaron Rodgers looks cooked, bro.
No, he doesn't.
Aaron Rodgers looks like he fell off a cliff.
The Vikings are one of the best teams in the league, though.
Your coach stinks.
The coach stinks.
Your coach stinks. He doesn't take the points.
He stinks.
In that he has a chance for a field goal. He goes for it. They get stuffed.
He stinks.
And the Vikings come down, score again, and then you score before halftime. Had you taken the field goal, you have most of the momentum. You're only down by a touchdown at that point.
I'm not going to argue with the coach stinks, but
and yeah, the Mets and the Phillies. If you just watch that game, I mean that was an amazing game, back and forth, and that series is now tied 1-1. So
yeah, I feel like that was a must-win for you guys because if you guys are down 2-0 in a best-of-5 going back to 2 to New York, I feel like you guys would be in a little bit of trouble. But to be honest with you, like, dude, the Phillies lineup is so good that I mean, if they get hot, it is a really good lineup. I feel like your bullpen's been shaky, so I feel like the bullpen is kind of where you want to work it, like work the lineup or work the at bats to get to your bullpen because your bullpen's been kind of suspect. But man, what a series, bro! I mean, it's never really football season for me until the Mets are out of it. You know what I mean? Like I'm always more interested in the Mets. But anyway, there's the bowling podcast. We could talk sports.
No, my favorite days as a sports fan, and I have to say I value sports less now than I probably ever did before. But my favorite days as a sports fan are the days where the Eagles play at 1:00 and there is a Phillies playoff game at 4:00 where the Eagles play at 4 and there's a Phillies playoff game at 7 or 8. I mean, those are the absolute best days as a sports fan. But yeah, I feel you on that, Rob. I certainly feel you. So welcome to everybody. Welcome to everybody here. Greg Tack is in the chat saying we should bowl on hard patterns. We do, you dope. Greg Tack, Rob, ran a 12-game marathon yesterday. And I ask, is 12 games too many games?
For a marathon, if you're going to advertise it as a marathon, 12 games straight, man, that's such a hard question.
To me, I think 8 is the perfect number. To me, like 8, everybody can do 8. It doesn't take forever to bowl 8. I think 12's too many. I'll be honest, 12's too many. They like time wise, physical effort wise. I don't know, man. Games 10, 11, and 12 are going to be brutal if I'm not in the hunt to cash at least. So, I don't know. Is 12 too many? That's what I'm asking.
When I lived in California, I bowled a 20-game. No, it was 2 10-game blocks in one day. That's the most I've ever bowled in one day.
All right, but that's 2 10-game blocks. That's different. If I get to take a break, go out, get a bite to eat, sit down, regroup, relax, I can probably come back and do another 10. I don't know, 12 games straight.
I think stopping in the middle is worse.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but 12 games, Yes, I agree with you. 8 is probably the sweet spot. 10 is probably the absolute most, and 12 is like, do I want to be there literally all day and all night? Because if you get a lot of people showing up and there's 5 on a pair or 6 on a pair, God forbid, it makes me have nightmares thinking about a 12-game tournament with 6 on a pair.
Yeah, well, the thing that's been going on, I mean, to me, this has been going on for a long time. I'm not looking to have a deep discussion on this. Is that there's a lot of people out there, like in Greg's case, who will hit him up and say that they're coming to the tournament, and then he puts up a Facebook post saying, "All these people told me they're coming to the tournament," and there's X number on the Facebook post, whatever it may be, and then the event gets way less bowlers than people said they were coming. And yeah, it's just, to me, it's like the new
say that you're going on Facebook so that everybody sees your name and thinks that you're going, and then you don't show up, and no one really double checks the standings to look at who actually showed up versus who said they were coming. And I just constantly see the same names doing that time after time after time. So that's why I notice it. But yeah, I think there were 44 entries, if I'm correct. If I'm wrong, maybe if Greg's still here, he can correct me. I think there were 44 entries. A good local lefty from around here, Andrew Lazarchik, won. Scores seem moderate. Oh, this is another thing. This sicko, Greg Tack. What kind of pattern you think he put out for a 12-game marathon, Rob?
Probably something flat, 1-1.
short
Short and flat.
Yep. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, I can't. Honestly, yeah, I mean, it would take a lot for me to go bowl 12-game pattern on a 12-game tournament on a flat pattern.
Crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, I think my mic dropped out for a second. Sorry, there, I got it. All right, Rob. We weren't on last week.
Yeah.
So I have league review. I don't even remember 2 weeks ago, to be honest with you. I know that I bowled really good the first game. The same thing happened the last 2 weeks. I went like 220 or 230 game 1. And then games 2 and 3, I bowled like an absolute dog and ended up shooting like 540 and 550 the 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, we were on the long pattern. And yeah, I just really used the wrong. I felt like I used the right ball the first game, wrong ball, stuck with that ball way too long. Then switched balls, went through a couple wrong options, 160, and then basically same thing the last game. Just found something towards the end, didn't execute it. Last week we bowled on the medium pattern. Bowled good the first game. Well, actually, I didn't bowl that good the first game. I put up a good score the first game. Couple bad shots that I got away with, and was fortunate to strike. But bowled okay the first game. Put up a good score of like 220 something, and then the next 2 games I just bowled mediocre. Felt like I threw a lot of good shots, but the score is just not there. I mean, you feel like you're throwing good shots, but you're really not executing it all that great. And we're bowling on PBA patterns. Holman, I forget the 3 names of the patterns, but Holman is one of them. Oh, geez, I wish I remembered the names. But they're tough. I mean, I think they're tough anyway. To me, they require you to have really steep angles. 2 of them out of the 3 require like really steep angles through the front part of the lane. And then the third one in the center that we're bowling in anyway, it's like a short pattern where the gutter doesn't really hook. So, yes, just haven't been bowling good. I throw it okay, but I lose it. Yes, Nico, I would say I get lost in the transition. I don't make the right moves. I actually feel really confident, like starting. I feel like, okay, I have a very clear picture of what I want to do on this pattern to start, what ball I want to use, where I want to stand, how I want to throw it. I start out that way pretty good. And then once I have to make a decision about what the next move is, things fall apart and fall apart quickly. Last week, I will say, I started the second game. I shot like 220 something the first game. And then I started the second game, missed spare. I forget what the spare was, but I missed an easy spare. And then I missed another easy spare in the second frame. I chopped the 3-6. I remember that. Chopped the 3 off. Then I went 7-10 on a shot that I thought was really good that I had moved on. And then I moved again and went 4-9. So that's how I started the second game. So that definitely was not a good stretch. That's a stretch I remember from Tuesday night that had me really frustrated. But listen, I as I say, I like bowling for the challenge. I don't care if I shoot 550, 540. I like bowling for the challenge, and it's challenging. I mean, I would say that on these 3 patterns that we're bowling on, you have a 2-board area at the arrows that you have to hit. If you do not hit those 2 boards, your ball is very likely gonna either miss the head pin right or go high and leave something that's really hard to make or impossible to make. So they're very challenging. I actually think that going back to the Kegel patterns might be the right move, especially considering the general average of the league, the median average of the league, I would say. But we'll see. That's for a later discussion, But Rob, you put out a short pattern where the gutter doesn't really hook, and you want to talk about pain, misery, and depression, bro. That's pain, misery, and depression central, and that's for bowlers that throw it pretty good, let alone guys who don't throw it to that level. So, enjoying myself, having a good time bowling. Here's what I like most: it's a doubles league. There's 4 on the pair. We start at 7:30, and we're out of there. We're out of there at the latest before 10 o'clock, and it's great. It's in and out. It's quick. Everybody keeps pace. Everybody keeps it moving. There's not a lot of standing around. There's not a lot of drinking, and you're there to bowl, and you get in and you get out, which is nice. I went to the training center today with one of my teammates that I'm bowling with, and with another guy who bowls in our league, and bowled on 2 of the 3 patterns. And yeah, like I said, I feel confident about what I'm doing and even executing what I'm doing to start. It's after I have to change where the problems arise. So yeah, I could definitely use some help getting better at that. Just decision making of where I'm supposed to go and what ball I'm supposed to switch to in these certain situations on these certain patterns. But having fun though, enjoying myself. Glad that the league is still running. Don't understand why the 205 bowlers will come out and bowl, but the 225 bowlers won't.
Yeah, we talked about that last week a little bit.
I'm going to continue to ask that question.
Well, why don't you bring your camera out? And I know you did a few audio clips, which we'll post in the next
content's coming. Content's coming. Don't worry.
Why don't you go over to those 220 bowlers on a microphone and ask them?
No, I'm not going to ask them because they ain't around. They ain't around.
Go to the house.
They ain't
go to
around
the
when I'm there. No, I'm not going on a separate night. They don't know. No, I'm not wasting my time. But I will ask the people in my league why the 220 some average bowlers don't show up.
I'd be interested to hear some of their responses.
Yeah, so would I. I think the common word you're probably going to hear is ego. Is probably going to be the most said word, I would think.
I'd be more interested to hear what the actual 220 bowler would say if you put them on the spot and you ask them.
Man, I think some would want to fight you.
Well,
no?
I mean, no one's going to fight you.
No, they might want to fight me. They might want to fight me, So you went to take a lesson with Mark Baker.
Man, I've been doing a ton of bowling. I mean, I got to get ready for the Robert Smith match in a few weeks. That's coming up here next 2 weeks.
Okay.
I'll be quick here, but I bowled league the previous Thursday before the Mark Baker lesson.
Whacking him
on Wolf.
Whacking him.
Whacking him.
Whacking him.
I know.
What?
Yeah.
950?
919 the week before. And then I went and took the lesson with Baker. And I want to talk a little bit about the lesson with Baker.
Well, what was the other series? 919, 950,
956. Yeah, I went.
Rob.
I went
950.
268. I went 268 front 9 the next game. And then I 6'10 and chopped for 268. So I started the set 266, 268. And then the third game I started double, triple, and then I caught myself in my own transition with the urethane.
Okay.
So I was making moves, carry, start to lose my, and then I opened in a 10th for 2-0. And then I kind of made the jump right, which was crazy because I was already like 5. And then I finished 220. So good set. But I opened 2 of those, the 950, and I opened twice, 2 games in the 10th. So figure that I could have been 1,000. Could have been
1,000 on Wolf.
on Wolf. Yeah. Anyway, so I went to Mark
Urethane.
All urethane. It's a cheat code on short if you have a little bit of hook. Like, you know how you talked about how if you don't have hook right on the short, you're in trouble. But if you're on the short and you do have hook to the right, it could be a cheat code using a urethane on a short pattern. And that's why sometimes you see a lot of success. And we'll talk a little bit more about urethane because I have some thoughts about urethane because I did drill a lot of stuff this week, and we'll talk a little bit about that after. But I want to talk about Mark Baker. So I went to go work with Mark Baker. His facility is in Orange, California. I really highly recommend anybody who really wants to take their game to I wouldn't say an even new level, just improve, right? Or get you to think about things that you normally don't even know that your body might be doing. I would go take a lesson, spend the money, go see him. His facility is first class, Orange, California. It's in a corporate park, Mike. It's literally in offices. You go through offices. I'm literally wheeling my bowling balls through through offices and cubicles, and you open a door and there's a 2-lane, like literally 2 lanes in the middle of this office, and he has 2 like 50, 60-inch monitors, and he's got all the stuff, right? The Kegel, I forgot what you call it, where it tracks every shot. Specto. He's got that. But the cool thing is every time you throw a shot, the video on one of the screens automatically keeps replaying your shot. And then he's got his little remote, and then he's able to rewind real quick, analyze, you did here, what you did there, and then you kind of throw another shot, and then you're able to really see yourself as you practice what you're doing wrong and what he is telling you what to do, and see like, oh, well, I didn't do it that shot, or I did do it that shot. So there is so many things that I have to work on out of my game. But the one thing that I did take out of his lesson was your body and your head movement is very important, as well as your footwork. But for me, I was doing a lot of dropping my head down, which was forcing my hand to get on top of the ball or grab it down on the bottom. Okay. So when I would miss, I would drop my head down. So I started to work on keeping myself upright, my head upright. How many times do we watch Bill bowl on TV or on a stream, right? You ever watch Bill O'Neill bowl? What does he do with his chin? His chin is always up, right? He works with Mark Baker all the time. And then it kind of clicked with me like, this is something Bill's doing. Bill's keeping his head up, right? You always see his chin like kind of like really high up when he throws it. And I think that's a lot because your head really controls where your body is in the position of your spine and whatnot. And it really kind of influences everything. So I started to do a lot of that, work on footwork. And then, practiced. I think the important part here is once you take a lesson and it's right advice that you're getting, right? It's very important to practice a lot after, right? Don't wait 2 to 3 weeks to practice. Go right to the center, work on it, build your muscle memory. And I think that's very important. So what I did is I went right the next day, I went to Bolero, I bowled for a little bit. Then I went to B3 and I bowled for an hour, dropped some bowling balls off to get drilled. And bowled 950 in league right after I worked with him. I worked with him on that Saturday and I bowled the next Thursday. Felt like I made a lot less mistakes than I normally would, which is the reason why I bowled about 40, 50 pins more than I normally do. Bless you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, I'll post the clip. I didn't want to post anything yet because I wasn't sure how I looked and I didn't want to post anything that looked bad, but I felt good. But I did get some equipment I needed desperately. We are in a bowling ball epidemic, Mike, and I felt like my equipment was old, just wasn't working for me. So I drilled. Yeah, I definitely wouldn't say patch pirated it, but I dropped off about 5 balls at the par shop. Drilled 5 balls literally right off, and had that gem that I drilled the week before. So here's my question to you, Mike, and I want to bring this up as a conversation. I drilled 5 balls. All of them were performance balls. They were kind of a little bit here and there on the spectrum. I drilled NV Tour. I drilled a Theorem, right? I drilled a lot of like balls that are good, that I know are good, right? I went to the TAT this weekend to bowl the tournament at the TAT yesterday, and the Purple Hammer. Here it is, right? Drilled 5 or 6 balls, have all these new equipment in my bag, walk into the bowling center with 8 balls. And what is notoriously everyone throwing? What is the shot calling for? A Purple Hammer. League. What am I bowling on a sport pattern? What is the play? A Purple Hammer, right? I feel like every time I'm on a sport shot, the Purple Hammer or the urethane's in play. And I'm sitting here with all these new performance balls in my picture, right? Like in my, sorry, I was reading the comment there, in the trunk. And I can't use any of it because I'm using a Purple Hammer. So why am I drilling all these performance balls, Mike? Like, I'm not bowling on house shots. I'm not bowling where there's a ton of volume sometimes in the middle, like in the middle of the lane. Mostly sport, mostly competitive shots. Shouldn't I just drill like 5 like urethanes and maybe 2 performance balls? Are we getting to the point now? If I'm not bowling house shots, my part 2 of this question, okay? So that's my first part of my question. Part 2 of my question, Mike, is do the bowling ball companies want and love the house shots? Because if there was no house shots, the need for drilling all of these high performance bowling balls, I think, is gonna drop and decrease. I think the bowling ball companies would have to make more urethane balls at this point, right? And where we are in the bowling industry today, than drilling these performance balls. Like, I'm not like, I drilled a effect, right? A hammer effect. Like, if it's, when am I going to use that ball if I'm not bowling in a house shot, right? I'm going to have to bowl maybe a 7, 8, 9 game tournament and use it sometime in the left. But I'm just saying, like, and so the question here, Mike, is do the bowling ball companies support and want house shots? Do they love the house shots because that's the only time that their performance balls are actually going to get some use?
I don't. That's an interesting question. So let me ask this then. So, like, if that's the case, see, I disagree with you, okay, and I would say, well, then how would you explain like regional guys or competitive tournament bowlers or tour guys? Forget it. They have a truck with all the bowling balls they want on it. How would you explain those guys carrying so many balls, bringing so many balls to events? Doesn't that in and of itself say that you're going to run into a lot of situations where urethane is not the answer? And that may not be happening for you per se. And I think that there could be other explanations for that, like the houses you're bowling in, the patterns you're bowling on, if they're similar, whatever the case may be. But I really don't think that is so true across the board when it comes to sport bowling. Now, do the bowling ball companies benefit from the lanes being easy and having all these options of different balls? And yes, but the irony to that to me is that on the house shot, to me, the ball matters less. I could go out with almost any ball on an easy house shot and find a way to make it work and make it work pretty well. Whereas on sport, there's a lot of situations where I feel like if I don't have the right ball or the right quote unquote look, I really don't have much of a chance. Now, is the urethane prevalent? Yes. But again, I think that there's other explanations for that, that don't necessarily relate to the performance or non-performance of the bowling balls that you're talking about. So that I don't know. It's a complicated answer, I guess, is what I'm saying. It's a nuanced answer to a nuanced question. But the one thing I feel strongly about in there is yes, the bowling ball companies love the house shots. But it's false. It's a false thinking on behalf of the average bowler, average house bowler. They all think they need the new ball to bowl well and strike. And I mean, we all know that new balls strike more, right? Like, I don't think that that's a myth. Like, you drill a new ball, it has better pop. It has those big numbers in it, and but I don't think balls last anywhere near the length of time today that they used to. But it's a myth because those house bowlers that believe that they need all that equipment, they really don't. You could almost go in there with any ball. In fact, I even see a couple channels on YouTube where guys drill the popular balls from when we were kids and throw them on house shots and have a lot of success with them. So stuff from back then is still working. Certainly I can go out and use almost anything and have some level of success with it. But everybody's convinced that you need the new, the best, the newest technology. On the sports side, I do feel like you need those options. I wish I could throw urethane on everything. I don't know how guys throw urethane on some of the stuff that I see them throwing it on. So for me, I definitely feel like I need those options on the sport.
I would disagree with you in a sense where bowling ball reaction, you said, isn't really a big deal on house shots. I think I'll disagree with you in the sense where it just separates your tier of what average you're going to average in a house. So I could average probably, and I'm just using my own personal game, I could probably average 215 with really any kind of bowling ball, from a urethane to a high performance on a fresh house shot with maybe 3 or 4 people on a lane. But if I find the right reaction on a house, that will go, that 215 would go to 235 or even 240 for a bowler if they find the right ball on a house. What I'm trying to say is with the sport shots, right, is with how many performance balls these companies are releasing, and they're releasing these new balls almost every other month, the percentage of how much urethane gets used on a sport compared to the actual bowling balls that they're putting out,
right,
is so skewed, right?
True.
I feel like you only see a purple hammer, or on the PBA tour now, you see a black hammer, or you see a pitch black getting thrown so much. And then all there's, you go into the pro shop, like I go to B3, and there's 50 bowling balls on the shelf.
Right,
and
but you're saying for the higher end performance bowler, really they need a couple urethanes and then just a couple other choices. And
I'm thinking, do I start going to these tournaments like my brother posted in the regional about everybody throwing urethane at the regional this weekend, the first half? Like, do I have to change the way I think when I go to these tournaments now? Instead of bringing 8 with me, having 1 urethane, 1 plastic, and 6 performance, which is what it's my mind, do I have to go to like a 2 or 3 urethane balls, a plastic, and 3 performances?
Yes.
And that's where I'm getting to. Like, do I need a pitch black? Do I need a purple? And do I need another purple with a 4,000 shine finish with a pin-up?
Different layout, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I might have to start.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, and I think people like us that grew up in the 90s bowling, my brother the same, Jeff, our styles are very towards the 90s, the way we bowl, right? One-handed, traditional, like to grab it at the bottom of the swing, especially East Coast people. And I feel like we need to change. We need to almost relearn bowling in a way, right? I know my brother Jeff doesn't like using urethane. He talks about it all the time. You don't like using urethane a lot. right? I like urethane, right? I love using it, but do I have to change the way my mindset is and like learn or get really good at throwing urethane? Like, yes, I think I
Yeah.
do. And I think in order to be successful on regionals, successful at these higher end tournaments now, like you have to relearn how to use urethane. When we've been growing up, when the urethanes were, when did the urethane kind of go extinct? Like what, in like, when did performance come out? Like
I'd
90,
say 93, 94 probably
right?
by
So
then.
yeah, so it's really interesting. I just think bowling has changed. It's changed in the last year, and that the urethane has changed it. And I think there's a different mindset now of when you're bowling these tournaments on what equipment you have to use and how to play the lanes because of the urethane.
No doubt. Good question though. All right, we ready to move on?
We're ready to move on. Yes.
Let's talk some Wes Malott.
Okay.
League championship ends. His team didn't win, right? Nolan Hughes comes out with an article the other day that basically says he's done. At least I mean, they were talking about done on the league team and the league competition, but it also sounded like he may be done bowling on on tour full time. That's kind of what it sounds like to me. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like every time he's bowled on TV, the last, I don't know, 3-4 years, he always bowling. He's been bowling injured. And they always talk about it. It almost looks like you could just kind of like push him and he would just like fall over. Like he just never seemed like he had his legs under him. He never seemed, and I think that's from like knee injuries, right? Which is like the worst kind of injury when you're, how big is he? And 6'5", and probably weighs 300 pounds, 250, I would imagine, somewhere around there. I'm just guessing here at this point, but it just always felt like he was injured, and they always talked about it too on the shows, in the league shows. But he's such a great bowler that even bowling injured, he was still better than probably 85% of the people on tour, even bowling injured, because of his hand release and how soft he is and how he's able to manipulate the ball at the bottom of the swing, and also just experience of knowing how to play the lanes, knowing what balls to you. The guy is an unbelievable bowler. I had the privilege of crossing with Wes Malott at one of the World Series of Bowling that I bowled. And it's amazing when you get a first row seat of bowling with one of the greatest bowlers, right, of this generation, and see how good he is. I mean, he was so good. It was, crossing with him was like, holy crap, like this guy's playing an arrow left of me. He's throwing it 2 arrows right of me, and he's going 300 over for 8 when I'm going 50 over, and he's able to literally stand left and hook right. So look, that being said, I do agree that he's probably not going to bowl as much. And maybe one day when he feels like physically he's better, maybe we see him start to get on the PBA 50. I'm not sure. He's probably close though, I would imagine, right? To like 50.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Jim Ward in the chat brings up the same thing, and that's generally what I thought about. Like, we've seen before other players on tour, and even Hall of Fame caliber or Hall of Fame players on tour, who, because of injuries, because they just couldn't do it to that level anymore. When they bowed out of the regular tour, we never really heard much from them again. Okay.
He was born 76, by the way.
Right. One of those guys, I would say, Rob, is Robert Smith. Right. I mean, after Robert Smith stopped bowling on the regular tour, we really didn't hear much from Robert Smith. Until he became involved in the game in other ways. But that's kind of what I'm thinking about Wes Malott. Is this another one of those situations where, and again, bowling's supposed to be a game where after you turn 50, your career kind of gets reignited again, and you go to the PBA 50 tour and maybe you're still competing out on the regular tour, but you're doing the PBA 50 thing and bowling well there. And yeah, I just kind of feel like from the tone of the article, from the tone of Nolan Hughes's article, I definitely won't be surprised if that's not the route that Wes Malott takes here, which is unfortunate because, yeah, I mean, you think about the last decade and a half of professional bowling, and he's definitely been one of the main guys out there, right? And I think the thing that I will always recall about Wes Malott and his game and just him as a bowler is, and I might be wrong about this. I probably am wrong about this, but I'm saying in my head, in my view of the game, I'll always remember him for being one of the first guys whose swing went this way, whose follow through went this way, but the ball went that way, and just remember seeing that, like, and just being like, what, like what is that? Like, how are you doing that? Like, that's not ever, like you said, Rob, that's not ever what we were taught, for sure. Like, I mean, if you would have pulled your follow through across your face with the coaches we worked with back in the day, they would have thrown you out of their session. Been like, what are you playing games with me? So yeah, I think, that's kind of like the impression that gets left on me, outside of all the winning and the great, accomplishments of his career. But
yeah, I want to bring up this comment by Henry. What does Mark Baker say about fitness and percentage of lower body compared to upper body? It's funny you asked that because I actually had a conversation with Mark about this exact topic. He told me personally that I need to lose a little bit of the bulk that I have right now because I'm a little bit too bulky, and I need to at least get a little bit slimmer in a way. I guess I'm a little bit chunky right now, but if you ask Mark coaches mostly lower body compared to upper body. It's all timing. It's all footwork. You ask me personally what I think about fitness and physically fit or what a good bowler should look like or should be like. I think of John Janowitz. I think of Marshall Kent. I think of Norm Duke. I think of Mike Fagan. I think of guys who are like slender and flexible and have a lot of kind of, I don't know, what do you want to call it? Like very elastic type. It's just, it makes for a good bowler, right? When was the last time you ever saw a PBA national pro that was jacked up? That was like jacked up, that was successful, like really jacked up, Mike.
Really jacked up?
Like just jacked up. Like when you go like, wow, this guy,
a little bit jacked up, I would say like Ron Palumbi. No,
you're pulling names out of the woodwork right now. Jesus. No. Well, that makes my point then, because if they're not out there, right? It's the dad bod. That's for bowling, right? Like it's not someone who's jacked, who's.
I feel like Tommy Jones is going to be mad at you for not including him in this. No?
Well, Tommy Jones is the king of the dad bod. I mean, the guy.
Oh man! Oh my God! Jones. You better hope he doesn't get a hold of this episode, son. He gets a hold of this episode, I think you're getting a personal phone call.
Yeah, like EJ, right?
AJ Johnson.
I wouldn't call AJ Johnson jacked. I would say he's in good shape. I'd say Marshall Kent is in good shape. I wouldn't say.
Oh, I got one.
Okay.
Jesse Buss.
Yeah, but yeah, he was jacked, but he was
jacked. He looked like Guile from Street Fighter.
No, he wasn't that big. Stop.
Oh, yes, he was pretty jacked, bro.
Look, all I'm saying is like fitness is important in bowling, especially when you're on tour and you're bowling hundreds of games a week, and you need to be like carrying a lot of less on you, right? Like in order to bowl all those games, and you have to be core's got to be strong, your legs have to be strong, and it's not like back in the, God, I couldn't tell you, like, you don't see David Traber. You don't see people like that successful on tour anymore.
Dale Traber. I mean,
Dale and David, I guess. But you don't see guys like, you don't see the John Daly bowling like on tour. Like, you don't see those guys. But back before us, before our time, you saw those guys and you saw them out there. I would say maybe jacked up, maybe Rudy was pretty jacked up. I mean, just like upper body, like jacked up, like as a successful bowler. But I feel like these days you don't see that.
No doubt. All right, Rob. We wanted to highlight a couple emails, yes?
Yes.
The people send us emails, and we like to highlight the emails. Am I allowed to highlight whatever I want here?
Sure, I guess.
All right, I'm not going to share names on some of these just because I'm not sure people want their emails out there. But
Sure.
this email was entitled "A Response to Louis Napolis." Okay, this was sent to us. Just going to catch the people up. Our listeners are the best. I really got much love for you people. Just catching up on tonight's episode, and I was moved to write you guys because, wow, Louis Napolis couldn't be more wrong about Big Mike, and he couldn't be more off about what he seems to think bowling needs. I started bowling almost 10 years ago in a casual league where literally teams were up to 10 people in an alley where the approaches were covered in beer. And unfortunately for me and others, it formed my first impression of bowling. Drunk, loud, and centered on partying, and how hard can you throw the ball levels of skill. That sounds like an amazing league, actually. That sounds like fun. Thank God I kept going bowling because I learned that my first league was not a representation of the sport. Well, neither is Louis Napolis. Every day, someone's impression of bowling is tarnished thanks to his never-ending patch parade, shilling for the highest bidder. And now apparently he has the nerve to go after Sweep the Rack. People like Big Mike and Rob are the people we need in bowling, unafraid to give real talk, encouraging and pushing more challenging conditions for those who are ready, staying connected to the community and holding the sport accountable to higher ideals. Thanks for what you guys do. Shout. Let's see. This one is titled Bleach That Patch Pirate Lewis. Okay. I'm just saying, that's the title of the email. Hey guys, love the show. I don't really get to listen live a lot, but we'll catch up afterwards. About 2-ish years ago, my cousin asked me to join a fun summer bowling league. It was my first time bowling in 12 years. My last league was back in 2008. Life just got in the way, and it sparked a flame that I had totally forgotten about, but was still there. One of the things that got me to do was search for bowling podcasts. Who even knew that was a thing? Well, I found you guys, and hearing you and Big Mike, who I did get a chance to meet at a tournament, he was very nice, and we got a chance to talk quite a bit. So I can personally attest that he's a good dude outside the podcast. Shout to Lodi Lanes, Dougie Vision. Talk about a sport bowling, which I had no idea was a thing. I knew the pros bowled on harder stuff, but that was kind of it. Up in Northwest New Jersey, it wasn't really promoted too much at the time. So it was because of you guys that I even discovered this whole other side of the sport. I've been going to a lot of Greg Tack events, who should be given the keys to the oil machine of the PBA. That would be something to watch. And just trying to really learn and practice on the harder stuff. And it completely changes how you look at the sport. It is because of you guys who promote sport bowling and talk about sport bowling that I do feel in the next up-and-coming generation of bowlers will try to get away from the house shot leagues. Keep up the great work and bleep the haters. Bleep the haters, son.
Real quick. Giving Greg Tack the keys to the PBA lane machine would be a wild scene.
Ooh, that's such a good example of a jacked bowler. Bob Spalding. Nice answer, Gizzy. Nice answer. Bob Spalding was a dude I felt like you didn't want to run into in a dark alley, bro. Like he looked like a bad dude. Seriously.
I know, but we're pulling names out of the 80s. I mean,
I love it. No,
I
that's
think Chris
90s.
Vai,
That's 90s. Bob Spalding is definitely 90s. Come on.
Chris Vai, I think, would be probably one who's I would maybe be on the borderline of jacked. But anyway, all right, Mike.
All right, we got another email here. Now I'm gonna give the name on this one. It's David Scivoletti. And the title of the email is Bowling Will Not Grow Until Money Talks.
Ooh, let's talk about this.
Okay.
Let's do
No
it.
matter the drama, no matter the crazy amount of videos that are posted, bowling will never get the mainstream attraction that we all crave for it until some underprivileged kid believes he or she could get out from his situation by bowling. And there's no money for anyone to believe that. ESPN, when Jason Belmonte first came out on tour, flooded the airways with him, and he lived up to the hype. He was on all the major news media outlets, and it wasn't enough to drive the numbers for an extended period of time. If the PBA pros were bowling for, say, even $1 million for a major or $500K for a regular tournament, bowling might explode in ways we never dreamed of. Take golf, for example. Golf has social media influencers because there's a ton of money in golf. Does bowling have anything like that? Does some little kid in the neighborhood sit in the corner somewhere dreaming of becoming a professional bowler? No, because a bowling as an industry has made itself into middle class to upper class sport. It is not like football or basketball where you can basically practice anywhere. It costs money to go even practice bowling. You can work on your swing for golf in your backyard. Bowling isn't like that. Also, and the major point, there is no visual to show how truly hard bowling is at the pro level. You guys joke about with sport bowling, it's like hitting from the men's tees at golf. If you were the head of a marketing company like Adidas, for example, and you watch the U.S. Open on TV and see a guy shoot 210 to win, what is that person supposed to think? He or she is probably thinking, oh, I can go bowl a 210 on a Saturday night drinking a few beers with my friends. Bowling has completely failed in marketing why that guy is winning with a 210 and how it's completely different than when you go out with friends on a Saturday night and do the same thing. If bowling really wants to grow, it has to show how it has to come up with some way of showing how bowling on Friday or Saturday night with your friends is completely different than bowling on the pro level. How to make a product where there is no visual impact on the difficulty level. Answer this question and bowling may start to head in the right direction.
Oh man, there's so much to peel away from that email. What a great email by David, though. He's in the chat. Appreciate it. What an amazing email. Oh man, I don't even know where to start with that. I do agree, and I think we talked about this a while back about if bowling was a blue collar or white collar. And at that point, I was more on the side of it being a blue, and I've kind of changed my view of it. Just knowing on how much money I'm spending personally, and I'm talking even just last year. And I could even how much money I did wrote off on my taxes for bowling expenses, practicing with Bolero's crazy practice rates, right? Drilling equipment, trying to keep up with that, right? I mean, I at least probably was like, I don't know, $10,000, $11,000, $12,000, somewhere around there between entry fees. It's crazy. It is like, how is someone in like what David talks about is how is someone who's, maybe an underprivileged kid or even adult, right? Who's not making a lot of money and not being able to spend that much money. How are they supposed to get better and maybe try to become a professional bowler?
Yeah, I mean, and like he said in the email, like even if they do, where's the payoff? Right? Where's the payoff? Like it's not like if you make it, you're set for life and your family's set for life. I mean, the payoff ain't even that great.
So here's the question though: is he talks about how like, oh, if bowling was $1 million, we'd see it explode, right? But it's like it's the question is like of what came first, the chicken or the egg? Because you're not going to get $1 million in the prize fund unless you boost your television ratings, right? And you get more sponsors. And how do you get more sponsors? Is you have to put out a better product, right? A more entertaining product. You have to bring in new viewers, new demos, new people, you have to bring in. And how do you bring in new people? You have to make it interesting and more entertaining so people want to watch it. So it all comes back to the entertainment of the product itself, because that brings in new viewers who then bring in new sponsors, who then bring in new money, who then, when you bring in the new money, then you brings in more people. So it's this huge cycle, right? Of you have to make it more entertaining. As long as the PBA stays with the format they are right now and just think bowling is going to bring in new people, it's never going to get new sponsors and $1 million prize funds. They have to think out of the box to bring in new people to be entertained and to want to watch bowling. Someone throwing a ball down the lane and knocking 10 pins down is not going to do it.
Fair enough. All right, Rob. Great emails from our listeners, guys. We appreciate the emails. Keep them coming. Let's give the people what they want, please. All right, I'm gonna make mine quick. I sent you these pictures, Rob. I don't know if you bring them up or not. I'll bring them up and just show it to the people. This person is going to be upset with me for giving them worst of the week, but you know what? It doesn't matter. I got to do it. If I don't do it, the people are going to call me out for being disingenuous.
Yeah, I think I could bring it up
because it might have been the weirdest. I mean,
yeah,
I don't even know what word to use. Weird, inappropriate, out of bounds, etc. But I'm giving my worst of the week this week to a friend of the show. Friend of the show, Dougie. Okay, none other than Dougie from Dougie Vision. Okay, and I don't even know what to say about this. Do you people see this? I mean, are you all aware of this? Okay, he's running a tournament called the Diddy. Okay, my guy is running a tournament called the Diddy. All right, the pattern for this tournament, the Diddy, is called the baby oil. All right. It's the baby oil pattern. All right. And it's 51 feet and it's 36.6 mils, 2-1. Okay. So you got the Diddy tournament, baby oil pattern. Doors open at 8 p.m. Celebration starts at 9. Are you ready for this tournament format? First half of the tournament is the cocktail hour. Okay. Where you bowl individually, okay, 3 games across 6 lanes, top 1 and 6 advance and get seeded. All right. Then the second part of the tournament is the freak off. It's the freak off. Dougie, yo, this dude is a genius, bro. This dude is, I hope you all get the sarcasm of me giving this worst of the week. I'm serious.
I'm trying to read it here. Hold on.
Okay, the freak off, all right, is the set. Rob, this is a 2-part tournament. It's the cocktail hour and then the freak off, where the cosmic lights get turned on. Okay, so now the individual portion of the tournament is done. Cosmic lights get turned on. Doubles teams get formed by seeding. Doubles teams, okay? And then the high seed and the low seed are partners, and you bowl 1-game standard doubles matches down to a winner. Okay.
I have so many mixed emotions about the name of the tournament. I don't know if I would name a tournament over a potential sex offender pedophile. I mean,
Dougie, you are so out of bounds for this one, bro. I mean, oh my goodness. So out of bounds.
I do think it's hilarious, and I think it's the marketing of it or the creativity of the tournament is actually pretty funny, and I think a lot of people will bowl just to have fun. I think this awesome. It's awesome, and it's worst of the week, but it's definitely like not worst of the week. Like it's just like it's
is there worst of the week in a good way?
Yeah,
have we ever had a worst of the week where it's like I'm giving this worst of the week, but almost in a good way? If we haven't had one, this might be it.
And if anybody was going to run this tournament, it's for sure Dougie. Like, there's
my favorite thing is that the pattern is called baby oil.
Mike,
the pattern, baby oil pattern.
Adam Miller says doubles. It should have been trios, and he could have called it a menage of trios. Oh my god!
Now, anyway. The only other thing I want to ask about this event is when you turn the Cosmic on, right? Obviously, you're going to have music playing too. Is it all Diddy music? Like, are we going all Diddy playlist for this until the tournament is decided? Or
Samuel says, don't know if you heard, but he also made a jingle for it.
Oh my god,
Mike, see if you can reach out to him and get the jingle.
I will.
We'll play it on the air. Bad boy. I wonder if that's just going to be like complete like. All I can think about is the Chappelle skit when he's Puff, and it's just the best. But
all right, good. Floor is yours.
My worst of the week actually is not an internet post. It's something that somebody did yesterday while I was bowling tournament. So I was bowling the main event of the tournament, which I didn't really bowl well. I think I bowled like 560 or 570. I missed too many spares, but that's here nor there. This is a tournament where first place is $5,000. Okay. So this is a pretty main tournament, a big tournament for a weekend tournament. Okay. And this guy gets up and he throws a shot, and the head pin was missing. The head pin, Mike. After he ends up knocking the pins down, he finally realizes that the head pin was missing. And
What do you get?
Like, I don't know, some split.
Okay.
He comes back and he starts yelling, the one pin was missing. The one pin was missing. And he's yelling at the top of his lungs. And I'm just like, dude, like, how are you not noticing the head pin was missing when you're bowling a main tournament for $5,000? Like, you didn't realize that, Mike, it wasn't like the 5 pin was missing, the 8 pin was missing, the 9 pin, easy to miss. Even the 7 or the 10 pin, I could understand it. But when the head pin is missing and you don't realize it until the ball's halfway down the lane, you definitely should win worst of the week.
Pretty important prerequisite is to make sure you have the head pin there.
Yeah. Check your racks, people. Check your racks before you throw the ball. Like,
all right, Rob, let's wrap it up. All right, final thoughts, Rob.
Yeah, USBC executive director Chad Murphy, who was on our show about 3-4 weeks back when he was hinting at a lot of the USBC Open Championship changes, finally released some of the changes for the 2026 tournament, which is going to be held in surprise Reno. They didn't want to do it for the 2025 because there's already teams registered, so it wouldn't make any sense to start making changes. One of the changes will be the adjustments for the averages for the divisions, which has been about 176 an Open Championship sport for regular, 156 to 175 Open Championship sport for standard, and 155 and under Open Championships sport for classified. The 2026 the numbers will be 182 and above. For Open Sport and regular, 161 to 181 Open Championships sport for standard, and 160 and under Open Championships house shot league averages, which is they have a conversion for the sport. There's an addition of the standard division was part of the changes that started with the 2017 Open Championships. So there's some redoing of the divisions. I think a lot of people for the changes they made is actually going to help them be able to bowl with people they haven't bowled with prior years. So there is some other changes. You could read it on the I believe on bowl.com. If you're a subscriber to the 11th Frame, you can go and Jeff Riggles wrote a great article about it, just talking about some of the changes, the goods and the bads and whatnot. But I don't want to get really too far into it. But I mean, this Open Championship is kind of just. I don't like all these divisions. I've never been a fan of these divisions. I don't know. I just feel like it just kind of
changes don't go far enough for you, is what you're saying. I think.
The tournament. It went from being able to go there and feel like I could make money every year I bowled there, in brackets and in a check, to now, like, if I bowl good, I'm just happy to break even with all my travel expenses and the check I get. The brackets aren't what they used to be. The tournament is not what it used to be, in my opinion, at least for the high level bowler. For that regular average bowler who wants to go have a good time with their family, friends, and have a vacation, I think I'd like to see the Open Championships go to more different places than just keep coming back to Vegas and Reno. I think that was the fun of it for a while, was being able to go see new areas, new locations. Look, I understand why they do it. There's already a stadium built in Reno. They have a stadium in South Point in Vegas. So the expenses, not having to build a stadium and build lanes is a huge financial driver. But for me, it was cool just to be able to go to Baton Rouge, having stories of playing poker with Bill on the riverboat is one of my favorite stories. Going to Tennessee to bowl was always cool. Just going to different places and experience it was always a fun part of my USBC Open Championship experience.
But generally, Rob, from what I've seen, it seems like the changes have been pretty widely accepted by people.
Yeah, I think so. And I didn't really get too far into researching it and asking people about it. But I do think so because I think it gives them an opportunity, like I said, bowl with people they haven't been able to bowl with in the past because of rules and like strict like eligibility. I think they also, I could be wrong here, and I probably will get definitely notified if I'm wrong, but I think they made the college bowling rule. I think they changed that. So I think college bowlers now can bowl with certain people that they weren't allowed to bowl with prior.
Okay.
There's a lot of changes in that end. I didn't read too much into it, but I do know that, yeah, it seemed like it was pretty widely accepted more than it was criticized.
No doubt. I'm going to make it quick here. My final thought is that Sweep the Rack Bowling Podcast Facebook page put up a picture earlier this week of a van with a bunch of bowling bags in the back, and told our people caption this, and it got over 300 comments, which I thought was just amazing. I mean, and some of the names, reading through some of the names they commented, just also had me laughing in and of itself. So I want to give a shout to the person whose comment I like the best, and it made me laugh.
I'll do mine.
A lot of people had this same idea, but this was the first version of it that I saw. So I want to give a shout out to Nicholas Wilson, is the name on Facebook, and he responded the following. He said, "This is post-tournament. The bowler in question, man, I didn't bring insert random ball left at home here, and that's why I was minus 264 for the 8-game block." And I just thought that was great because you probably actually heard that before in some.
Shouts to a lot of other people who had some really good comments. Some of my favorite comments were John Howe. Wish I was a two-handed lefty. I'd only need to bring one ball. We had some old school names commenting. Derek Sapp made a comment. Old school Western Illinois, my guy, beat the crap out of us in college back in the day. And a lot of this was on the same area. That one I left home would have been the one that worked. Couldn't carry. George Gohagen, man, my guy, wrote.
He had a good one, yeah.
Patch Pirate Arsenal had to go beat up on Mamma Mia in the Sunday Night Mixed League, and then we responded, man, Mamma Mia ain't playing, And then Tim Soros had a good one. Can't wait for the new releases to come out for League. Chris Barnes talked about throwing balls over. I'm sure he's done that in his life.
That was an interesting take from the pros' perspective of a picture like that, you know.
Yeah, just amazing how many people showed out for that post. I was happy to get at that point just a little bit of engagement, and then when I looked at my Facebook, the social media, I'm like, holy crap, I can't keep up with all these comments. And as of now, it's like over 400 comments. Everyone's still commenting on it, so it was pretty cool.
Yeah. All right, guys, we're gonna wrap it up. We appreciate everybody joining us. We appreciate the emails. Keep them coming. sweeptherack@gmail. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps us out. Look for our TikTok/Instagram reels. We got a lot of them out there. I've heard that some of my hot takes on house bowling are going somewhat viral. 10,000 views, Rob. We got
11.5
okay.
thousand.
The Patch Pirates. The Patch Pirates they probably watch it over and over again, get madder and madder. That's why it gets so many views. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Check us out on social media. We're mostly on X. He's at Brooklyn Rob 11. I'm at the 215. I think we'll be back next week. I'm not 100% sure, but I think we'll be back. We'll keep everybody up. Obviously, bowling season, it's dying down a little bit right now. So,
real quick, 2 weeks is the Asian Ong, my action match with Robert Smith is right. The following next is like the Thursday of the 17th of October, and it will be streamed on, I believe, on the Storm Bowling Facebook page. But I will be, and this is my plan, hopefully it works out, I will be planning on videoing it myself and miking myself and Robert up during the match.
Okay.
So, and then what I plan on doing is releasing the video on our YouTube page a few days later, unedited, unfiltered, best 3 out of 5, me and Robert on the mic. If Robert doesn't want to be mic'd up, I will mic myself up. And you might hear some Grandin type self-talk while I'm bowling. Yeah, so I want to throw that out there too. If you're not going to get a chance to watch it live stream, which is going to be a late on Thursday night, I will have it planned on posting a couple days later, but we'll talk more about that the show before. We might go live at Carl's house like last time with Robert and a couple of oh yeah, turn the Phillies.
Well, you rocked your Mets hat the whole episode, so before we get out of here, I just want to show everybody I'm still rocking with my boys. We'll check in with you on the series. Go Phils. Everybody take it easy. Enjoy your week. Later.
You are now listening to Sweep the Rack podcast featuring Brooklyn Rob and Big Mike.